it all ends in what I've talked about for so long, a failure to deliver. Somebody stands for their metal, and that metal doesn't exist. They can't get the metal, and then it's completely game over because confidence will be 100% broken.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for December 15th through December 22nd, 2025, while supplies last. First this week, half-ounce gold U.S. Eagles are just $170 over melt per coin. Next, 2026 1-ounce silver Canadian maple leaves are just $5.75 over spot per ounce. 100-ounce silver bars dealer's choice are just $2.25 over spot per ounce. And finally, call and ask about our Christmas special on 90% junk silver. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. I'm always privileged to have this returning guest. Bill Holter, wildly popular and known as Mr. Gold, joins us this Friday, December 19th, 2025. Bill, thanks for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks for having me back, Don, again.
We wanted to get, with your help, a 2025 year in review and a 2026 year look ahead for our viewers and subscribers. You've been with us all the way and telling us what you're watching in these economic times and as the markets unfold. And we have several questions for you along the way. But if we could just start with your bird's eye view of the highlights that you see from the past year that we've just about made it through, and what you're looking towards in the year ahead related to our economic, our monetary, and precious metals lives.
Yeah, I think the broad overview on 2025 is that debt, again, increased dramatically. So leverage is higher than ever before on any metric you look at. And at the same time, you've got, for instance, Bank of Japan. They're raising interest rates. They're blowing up the carry trade. The carry trade is what allowed liquidity to support asset prices, and that is unwinding. And I think that's going to come to fruition in 2026. And I believe that that's what the metals, what the commodities are looking at. That's why you're seeing commodities run, and the metals have been just on fire. The two best performers for 2025, I believe, were gold, silver, and of course the miners. And I think they're sniffing that out. They're sniffing out the fact that they're going to have to print to oblivion in order to service the debt. And the debt game is over. The reset, we're probably, I'm guessing, maybe the fifth inning of a baseball game into the reset. But the last innings are going to be the wild innings.
What about the change in behavior of the major exchanges, the spot price and on the COMEX and LBMA? Any revelations that happened this year? Any major changes in behavior, what you're watching there?
Yeah, the biggest change in behavior is that we're basically in backwardation worldwide. And what that means is people want their metal. They want it in hand. They want it, and they want it now. They're not willing to wait 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And that's why you're seeing markets that are paper markets are trading below markets that are physical markets, price-wise.
And do you believe that switch in emphasis from paper markets to physical markets is what you've been talking about for a long time? Is this one of the steps that you've been telling people to watch for? And what do you think how will that affect the price action of gold and silver because of that change?
Well, understand that the price action for 30 plus years has been managed, if you will, with paper contracts, with leveraged paper unbacked contracts. And that is ending. So from a price standpoint, I think you're going to see both gold, silver, and other commodities liberated and trade as they would in cash markets, where there's no interference by futures, options, etc., trying to in the metals market, trying to suppress And then it goes the other way around in the paper markets. When I say paper, I'm talking about stocks, bonds, things like that. Those same derivatives have been used to hold the markets up. And I think that the paper influence is waning at this point. The point in time where it's done, that's where you'll see markets crash and gold and silver basically become unobtainable.
It's been forecasted by others that we have on our channel who watch for momentum structural analysis from Michael Oliver and others, that we should be shifting into a new price regime because of this transition that you talk about. For those who are waiting around for the good old days of low prices to come back before they load up and that sort of thing on physical metals, are you thinking that it's unlikely that we'll see a major opportunity like that? Even if there is a rapid price correction, will there likely be availability of physical at those lower prices for a sustained enough period of time for people to get orders in and all that? Or do you think that people, all of us, need to just get our heads around the fact that we're transitioning into a new price range and we're not likely to see the opportunities that we've had in the past return anytime soon?
Yeah, even if markets crashed, and in the past when markets crash, you see both gold and silver drop in price. Even if markets crashed, I don't think you'll see silver ever under $50 again. I don't think you'll ever see gold under maybe $3,700, $3,800 again. But the risk of waiting, hoping, and hope, by the way, is for dopes. When you're talking about finances, you don't hope, you look at things mathematically. Hoping to get lower prices is a fool's game. I mean, you're going to count your wealth in ounces, not dollars. And to wait, hoping that prices go lower, and if you're wrong and prices go higher and something happens to the supply chain and you're unable to buy it, you're locked out. Once this happens, you're never going to be able to alter your position. You're either in or you're out.
In the past, you have a history of a former career as a Wall Street branch manager and are extremely aware of the way that markets trade, the way that the financial bets that are made there, how they're funded with cash or with margin and so on. What's your view of the transition, the changing of the guard, perhaps you'd call it, at the metals, in the metals and commodities markets regarding, you mentioned this transition from paper markets into physically dominated markets. How does that change the behavior of the action that you're seeing on the exchanges?
Well, like I said, the action on the exchanges are changing because it's moving. They're all moving more toward delivery. They're all moving more toward a cash and carry market. Now, COMEX was not designed as a cash and carry market, and you can see the inventories have declined, especially in silver. You can see that with LBMA. You could see that with Shanghai, even though Shanghai is basically a cash market. But I've been adamant all along is that the end game, gold and silver would end up being cash markets, cash and carry, and the futures would be irrelevant. I mean, it's very possible to see gold at $50,000 or $100,000 bid and nobody willing to sell. Yet COMEX has got gold contracts offered at $10 an ounce, but nobody's willing to buy them because there's no gold behind them. So I mean, that's where we're headed, and that it all ends in what I've talked about for so long: a failure to deliver. Somebody stands for their metal, and that metal doesn't exist. They can't get the metal, and then it's completely game over because confidence will be 100% broken.
It's interesting because John Rubino, whom we often have on our channel, just wrote an article today about the shrinking trust horizon. He's talked about that term for some time. And what you just talked about is loss of confidence. Alistair McLeod has talked about loss of confidence in the U.S. dollar, the U.S. Treasury bond. John Rubino has talked about loss of confidence in information that people are getting from the internet. When we have these AI spoofed, well, it looks like it's Warren Buffett giving an announcement, but it's not really him. It's just an AI deep fake. Or we've had recently someone talking about action on people, their silver being at risk, get out of silver quick and get into gold because gold's not listed on the critical materials list and therefore you'll be safe and the government won't try to come and confiscate it. What's your view of this idea of loss of confidence, not only in the markets, but in the information that we're getting about the markets?
Well, understand the dollar itself, the euro, the yen, the pound, they're all fiat currencies and they all are valued because of confidence. Confidence goes another step further. The reason, and going back to the reason governments don't want gold and silver to go higher is because that shows a lack of confidence in their currencies and it makes it more difficult for them to borrow. The suppression scheme on gold and silver really started in 1996 with Robert Rubin with what he called the strong dollar policy. And the strong dollar policy basically was dollar good, gold bad. And, they were able to, for years and years, they were able to put a collar on gold and silver. That collar is breaking. And as that breaks, so does trust. And you're right, there's so much, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not real. I posted the young Korean guy on my website and got about 5 or 6 emails immediately back saying this is AI. And I said, yeah, I know it's AI, but his logic is sound. Now, the only thing I've heard him or it or whatever say that was speculative and it looks like was not true was the CFTC meeting at 9 o'clock this morning telling people that you can't buy, like the Hunt brothers back in 1980. But his logic on that was, in my opinion, was 100% correct. If the COMEX comes out and tries to pull the same bullshit they did with the Hunt brothers, where you cannot buy, you can only sell, that will be the end of the COMEX contracts, because that will immediately, people will immediately buy every physical ounce of silver, every physical ounce of gold that they can find. You'll see that bifurcation between paper and gold come to 100% fruition, and silver.
We may have seen the foothills of that mountain already when there were arbitrage opportunities that opened up with the Shanghai and other physical markets leading by several dollars above this, foresaging this launch in silver prices this year. Any comments from you on the fact that it seems like these Asian or across the seas physical markets have been leading the way and basically showing that lie to be what it is, the paper price in the West?
Yeah, and it shows that the U.S. is no longer the centric, most important market in the world, if you will. Gold and silver have been bought, and the deficits, the supply deficits, have been exposed, not because of Americans. I mean, as a broker this year, we took more sell orders from clients than we had combined in all the years of our careers, or at least I did. I mean, I took tons and tons of sell orders this year. So North America was a seller, yet the price of gold and silver exploded higher. And the reason being, you had central banks from all over the world buying. You've got India importing massive amounts of silver. China's a huge buyer. Russia's a buyer. And mentioning Russia, this whole thing got kicked off when Biden tried to weaponize the dollar, the SWIFT clearing system, and confiscate the 300+ billion that Russia had in reserves. And those are still confiscated. And the world looked at that and said, hey, wait a minute. If they can do that to Russia, they can do that to anybody, including me. And that's why you've seen sales of treasuries and purchases of physical metal delivered out to these entities.
Wanted to get your input on, as Mr. Gold, on the extraordinary low premiums that we saw emerge this year on pre-33 semi-numismatic American gold coins, Liberties and St. Gaudens, generally over time, the premiums on any product will go in and out like the tide and rise and flux relative to spot price. But this was an astonishing dip in the premiums on pre-33 gold relative to modern bullion. At some times you could actually get the old gold cheaper per ounce than you could new gold. If you could weigh in on that first, and then we're going to hit you up on the same question about 90% silver low price. So first, if you could talk about the pre-33 gold.
I was going to go to silver after that. Yeah.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
You did have some very large estates liquidate this year, but you also had people just trying to live. You know, I need to sell 5 coins or 10 coins or 1,000 ounces of silver or whatever. You've had North Americans are feeling the pinch between the cost of living going up and the incomes, the wages aren't keeping up with it, and that's come to a head. So you had a lot of selling. And same thing with silver. The only way to buy silver back in the 70s and early 80s was via junk silver. I mean, there were other ways, but primarily that's what North Americans bought, was pre-1965 dimes, quarters, half dollars. And a lot of those bought in the $30, $40, $50 range. And for 20, 30, 40 years, people were thinking, if silver ever gets back to $50, I'm going to get my money back out of it. And that's what you've seen a lot of sellers of junk silver, and the dealers got overwhelmed, and their response was to lower their bids. And whenever anybody sold to them, they sent that junk off to refiners to melt it down. So if they're taking a 6% or 8% or 10% discount bid to customers, they're picking that up when they get it refined. Now, right now, yes, that's uncomfortable because you're looking at the bid now, $5, $6 under spot for junk. So that's not comfortable if you own junk silver. But I think if you wait 3 months, 6 months, a year, this glut of sales from the 1970s and 80s, once that funnels its way through the snake, guess what? There's way less junk silver available or in existence than there was before this. And you can put this down. I'm sure people come back to me if it doesn't happen. But in my opinion, when all is said and done, junk is going to be the highest priced silver in North America. It will eclipse eagles at some point because they make eagles every year, and this year they've destroyed the supply of junk silver outstanding.
The other thing that we heard was that burgeoning industrial demand for 1,000-ounce silver bars at the industrial level and taking from the exchanges by large industrial demand has caused a huge demand spike on those refiners, and that they simply, in order to keep up with production rates, had to put on the slow boat of taking the extra processing steps for 90%. Can you talk to us about that, and whether that's, again, one of those opportunities then?
Yeah, there's no question about it. Refiners all over the world are running 24/7 at 100% capacity. And they've been doing that, I think, for the majority of 2025. I think it started probably in March or April, where the refiners started getting overwhelmed. And the result is an unbelievable value. If you're looking to buy silver, it happens to be that the best form to own, constitutional silver, is also the cheapest form to own. I mean, you could buy junk now at spot, 50 cents over spot, and you're looking at what, $6, $7 on Eagles, $3 or thereabouts on bars. Junk is the cheapest form, and it's the best form to own. So you're getting the best for the least. I mean, that's a bargain.
What about the pre-33 gold that we touched on briefly before? You mentioned people have hardship situations this year when they had to pay taxes, they had medical bills or whatever on the individual level. Other reasons that you're understanding why pre-33 gold would have been unusually inexpensive this year, whether you think it's still a bargain that people should be looking at closely if they can get it for less than or about the same price as bullion.
Yeah, historically, the pre-33 gold is traded at a 20 to 30% premium to spot. If you go back to 2011, when there was fear of confiscation, you could have sold a MS-63 Liberty at 80% over spot, turned around, taken that cash and bought an Eagle at 6 or 7% over spot. So you picked up lots of weight. You got a lot more ounces. And here we are, the opposite, 180 degrees of that. It makes sense, except for the tax ramifications, it makes sense to swap Eagles or any other form into pre-33 gold because you're buying it basically at spot. This has never happened. It will unwind itself, and when it does, you're going to see that they'll go back to 20, 30% premium over time. And if there is a whiff of a fear of confiscation, watch how fast the premiums come back to the pre-33s because they are collectibles.
Yeah, we observed that over the past several years during the COVID crisis, the bank failures, the Ukraine invasion was a huge rush of demand in the pre-33 gold and rush of demand into the 90% silver constitutional coinage. And you're saying that the momentary lull in both of those should be seized upon as an opportunity because if normalcy reasserts itself, we should see demand for both of those return.
Oh, absolutely. They're the best form for an American to own. If you're going to own silver in the United States, it should be junk silver, unless you're in an IRA. Same thing with the pre-33 gold. If you're going to own gold in the United States, it should be the pre-33s. It's as cheap as any other product, but you're talking about 100-plus-year-old coins. They're collectible, and being collectible, they're not bullion. So if there's an executive order like FDR put out in 33 to confiscate the gold, hey, you are not a hoarder. You're a collector.
Now, we have to pass on this particular question when we're talking about pre-33 gold because every week, if not every week, for sure every month, I get another sob story from another new client who says they or their husband or their wife or even if it's a widow or if it's someone with elderly, they were pressured into buying pre-33 gold, very specific. This year from this mint and this year from this mint, and the prices are double or triple or more what the normal price is for pre-33 gold of those grades. Any comments from you on what people should watch out for rather than go, okay, Bill said, go get pre-33 gold. So I'm going to listen to that dealer that's telling me they're going to charge me 2 to 3 or more times what the spot price is because it's really good pre-33 gold.
My response would be, don't be stupid. Don't pay 100% premium on gold. I mean, gold is gold, with the exception of pre-33 gold. Yeah, it's not confiscatable, so there should be some type of premium. And like I said, historically, that premium has been 20 to 30% in that range over spot. If somebody's wanting you to pay more than that, that's ridiculous. And in today's market, you should be paying within, I don't know, $100 a spot. And unless you go up to MS-65s, MS-66, you're not going to be, $300, $400, $500 over spot.
Yeah, unfortunately, we've had people show us their invoices from what I would consider predatory dealers who are charging them 250% of spot, that kind of thing for pre-33 gold. But the claim is, well, we have evidence that shows that at auction, these coins have gone that high at auction. People are the wealthy, the well-informed wealthy are willing to pay up for these special coins from special years and special limited mintages and that sort of thing. Any thoughts from you on? Again, we've talked to you about several times about preparedness for if there's societal breakdown or financial crises. How much do you think people should rely on what sometimes things go for in auction if they're trying to prepare for financial upset and make sure that they're in safe territory.
Yeah, when things go bad, when the shithouse comes down, your coin is going to be, I mean, an ounce of gold is going to be an ounce of gold, an ounce of silver is going to be an ounce of silver. I mean, that'll get sorted out once things reboot and we have a system coming back up. But once the system's down, an ounce of silver is going to be an ounce of silver, an ounce of gold is going to be an ounce of gold, and basically you're going to be able to get for it whatever you can barter. And you get a lot of people that say, oh, well, you can't eat gold or you can't eat silver, but farmers, the only way they can spend their product is give it to someone for something in return. And I mean, I've talked to many, many farmers over the years. I think I've only had one farmer tell me, no, I won't accept silver for, my eggs or chickens or whatever. But just understand that gold and silver are themselves money. And farmers understand that. And when the system comes down, it won't be but a week or two before people understand, hey, wait a minute. Gold and silver are money. I'm not going to accept paper dollars because what are they? What are they backed by? They're backed by a bankrupt issuer.
That's one of the dirty secrets that it sounds like not only governments don't want to have get out. That's why you said there's been such a concerted effort over the years to maintain the confidence in the fiat currencies. It also is a dirty secret that banks don't want to get out, as how insolvent and frankly illiquid they are as well. Both Rafi Farber and Phil Lowe, who've been on our channel, have talked about the truth showing through the bank's actions as they don't trust each other in overnight lending, and that seems to spike the rate. And yet they don't want to go to the Fed window to take out loans there because it would make it obvious to all the other banks that they're desperate. Any comments from you from your experience on Wall Street about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's what happened in 2008, 2009. Everybody's worried about counterparty risk. Bank A does business with Bank B. Bank B does business with Bank C. And it turns out that A lost too much and is bankrupt, can't pay Bank B. So Bank C is not going to do business. I mean, it's a financial orgy, and everybody's worried about who's infected, meaning who can't pay, who's insolvent. Is the other side of my trade insolvent? If it is, then my trade is a loser. No matter what the price does, go up, down, sideways, it doesn't matter. If the other entity is insolvent, you're not going to get paid, which means you now have risk of becoming insolvent. And that's what happened in 2008, 2009. The counterparty risk was what banks were afraid of. Now, speaking of counterparty risk, that's why you want the assets. You want your stock certificates. You want your metals. You want as few intermediaries between you and your assets as possible.
One of the areas where you have intermediaries between you, even if you own metal, is in an IRA. There have been some clarifications legally, evidently, but from the IRS that it needs to be held in a vault rather than a home storage IRA that was a popular concept for a while. And there's a custodian who reports your every move to the IRS. What are your thoughts when you consult with clients about the privacy aspect and the counterparty risk aspect of a physical precious metals IRA, and what other alternatives they may want to consider?
Yeah, the counterparty risk, as I see it in an IRA, is the vault itself. I prefer using smaller non-bank vaults as opposed to national names, because those would be easier targets for the government to say, just turn everything over. One of the vaults that I know you also use is in North Dakota. I'm comfortable with that because North Dakota is the only state in the country that's not part of the Federal Reserve System. So theoretically, you could not have a federal agent walk in and say, tell us who your customers are. And I don't believe that the counterparty risk extends to the trustee, basically the bookkeeper. because they don't have control of the metal itself. The metal is in a vault. And being in a vault, understand that when the great taking happens, it's all going to be done by computer. Everything's on the books on a computer. Things are on blockchain. They're easily confiscated by pressing, a few strokes of a computer key. To confiscate your metal in a vault, you'd have to have trucks pulling up to it and hauling stuff out. It's not low-hanging fruit, in other words.
Yeah, the vault that you're referring to in Dakota is one, if you look at, they have a position statement as well on their website that explains their commitment to protecting private property rights. And maybe it helps that they're in North Dakota, which also stands behind that concept of strong private property rights in the face of unlawful, unconstitutional orders that may come out of Washington, which can happen. Any further thoughts from you on the 2026 look ahead, things that you're looking towards, that you're looking at, and you're watching carefully, and things that people should keep their eye on as we head into 2026?
Yeah, I think 2026, you're going to see an unwind of the credit markets. I think everything is going to unwind in 2026. Do we make it to 250 years? To, July 4th, 2026? I don't know whether we make it or not. I don't want this thing to come down. I even though life has changed dramatically from the standpoint of, the way we grew up, it's still better than a system that goes down and a Mad Max scenario where financial markets don't work. You can't get gasoline, you can't get food. That's where we're headed. And that will be caused by credit markets seizing up.
You've been cautioning us, and as did your partner Jim Sinclair prior to his passing, God rest his soul, for some time about that eventuality and how that's the natural trajectory when you have fiat currency systems that are based on nothing and leverage of nothing on top of that, and governments that seemed bent on debting our way into oblivion and saddling our children and grandchildren with unpayable obligations. Has anything changed in the way things have transpired that has changed your view of that ultimate destination, or if it only reinforced what you foresee?
Yeah, no, nothing has changed at all. I mean, go back to 2007, 8, 9. The reasons for that happening still exist, but they're bigger. I mean, nothing was fixed after 2008. Nothing. All they did was double down, and double down. So now there's way more debt. Now there's way more money supply. The balance sheet of the Fed basically blew out tenfold in 2008. Went from 800 billion to 8, 9, 10 trillion. No, I mean, it's a progression is what it is. And I guess the best way you could look at it is it's a flame out, because the debt gets so large. In order to pay that debt, in order to pay the debt service, they have to increase the money supply. And what that does, if you think of the money supply as a pie, the money supply gets bigger, but there's way more slices to that money supply. So each slice is worth less. And that's the purchasing power. That shows, the purchasing power drops. People look at the movement this year in gold and silver and say, wow, gold went up. Wow, silver went up. Well, yeah, they do move against each other, but no, an ounce of silver today is that same ounce of silver back on December 31st. An ounce of gold today, same ounce of gold it was December 31st. The only difference is how many dollars, how many euro, how many yen, how many British pounds, Canadian dollars, whatever you need to purchase that ounce of gold or ounce of silver. And because they've dropped in purchasing power, that's the reason the price of gold is higher and the price of silver is higher. Nothing happened with the ounce of gold or the ounce of silver. What happened is the purchasing power of the fiat currencies basically collapsed this year.
Now, having said that, though, out of fairness, we could say that the purchasing power of the currencies is dropping about 10% per year, give or take a little bit. They have the lying cookbooks number they come out with 2, 3, 4%. That means nothing. But let's just use 10% as an easy figure. But the fact that silver jumped 100% nominally in a year and gold jumped nominally 75% means something else is also happening. Either we're catching up for lost time, okay, if it's been suppressed too long, too far, or how much is it also caused by the awakening of the masses going, oh my gosh, we've been sleepwalking, so there hasn't been the demand. Now there's demand as masses try to crowd into the only remaining safe harbor. Are there any other harbors of safety, or are gold and silver unparalleled as far as being those safe havens? And it's just that only 0.5% of the people's investments are in that. And when they realize that and start to cram 4% or 8% or whatever of all their investments into that tiny little market, that's when the real fireworks start. And it's not just reflecting the linear or exponential decay of the dollar. It's also the awakening of the people who are seeking shelter.
Right. Well, first off, again, understand that gold and silver for years and years have been suppressed with paper prices, or with paper contracts being sold to dilute their value. So you're getting some catch up on that. You're getting catch up on silver because it comes out of the ground at less than 10 to 1 as far as the mining, but yet it was priced at one point at 120 to 1. Took 120 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. We're now down to 64. I think on this move, you're probably going to see it well under 50. And you very well could see it under 20, under 30. The historical norm was 16 to 1. And it was discounted to 16 from 10 to 1 because you had to carry 10 times the amount of silver to move the same amount of money. But just understand that gold and silver themselves are money. End of story. Are there any other things that you can use? Well, yeah, if you have farmland, you can grow stuff and sell it and eat it yourself. Ammo is not a bad thing to have. You can barter with that, and you can also protect yourself with that. Storing up food. Anything that you have can be bartered. So keep that in mind when you're preparing and stocking up. Think to yourself, if I didn't have this, what I want, and what would I give for it?
Bill, you write and publish fairly often on topics of great interest to our viewers and subscribers. If they want to make sure that they're up on your latest, where should they get connected?
Yeah, just go to my website. It's billholter.com. If you want to contact me directly, there is a contact button on my website. If you want to contact me directly, you can go to my business email. It's bholter@proton.me.
Well, we've been speaking with Mr. Gold himself, Bill Holter, former Wall Street branch manager and analyst of all markets. Bill, thank you for joining us once again on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you, Dunnigan. Have a Merry Christmas.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin weekly specials for December 15th through December 22nd, 2025, while supplies last. First this week, half-ounce gold U.S. Eagles are just $170 over melt per coin. Next, 2026 1-ounce silver Canadian maple leaves are just $5.75 over spot per ounce. 100-ounce silver bars dealer's choice are just $2.25 over spot per ounce. And finally, call and ask about our Christmas special on 90% junk silver. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.